Okay, now I have two very big video games that I need to talk about in this video. And these two games being Telltale's The Walking Dead and The Last of Us Part 2. Now this is a clear contrast of where gaming was and where it is now. Gaming in the modern day and the modern era. Now, both of these games have many similarities, and I don't know how no one has really spoken about the similarities of each respective game. But I mean, it's something that it does beg the question and does really bring up a good topic and talking point. Now, both of these games are centered around a zombie out or a virus pandemic or a zombie outbreak or a zombie apocalypse, as people like to say. Both of them are centered around the same thing, but they go about portraying their story in different ways. Like Telltale's The Walking Dead is more of a story-based point and click comic book style cartoon-esque video game. As for The Last of Us is a realistic world adaptation of a zombie apocalypse or a zombie outbreak. Now, they each play their respective roles extremely well. Telltale's The Walking Dead did everything they needed to do right, and The Last of Us, being The Last of Us 1 and 2, lost the plot completely. The Last of Us, the first game, was amazing, and the whole community can agree, and even gaming can agree that this game is one of the best games of all time, you can say, specifically of the PS3, that being an exclusive. Now they both tried to do the same thing of how, there's a strong male protagonist who finds a damsel in distress, being Ellie and Clementine, and these men feel compelled enough to take these girls under their wing and to show them the ropes of how to defend themselves. Now, the difference between the two games is that Telltale's The Walking Dead takes place on day zero of the outbreak, of where it first starts, and you can see the story, you watch the story unfold, and he's living through the outbreak. With The Last of Us, specifically with The Last of Us, the first game, Joel, for like on the day zero of the outbreak, Joel is living his life, and then the outbreak happens, and then a soldier finds him trying to escape the town, and he shoots Joel and his daughter. He shoots Joel and his daughter, and then Tommy shoots him, and then there's a time skip of 20 years, which really is bad writing. I mean, 20 years is a considerable amount because there was so much important and pinnacle information that was important to the story of The Last of Us, and they stripped it bare to the bare minimum. And now now in The Last of Us 2, the story is carrying on, but in The Last of Us 1, they really missed out on a lot of information, and that could have been spanning a huge amount of games in the series. But let me carry on. So that was the way they chose. And 20 years, yes, 20 years. Now, The Last of Us 2 takes place of where Joel and Ellie aren't really on talking terms because Joel finally revealed the truth. And the similarities that Telltale's The Walking Dead have and that The Last of Us Part 2 has is that both of the main male protagonists died. Now, Lee died in the first game and left Clem alone. That left Clem alone because Lee got bit. And with The Last of Us, Joel got killed off early in the game in The Last of Us Part 2. So it really left Ellie and Clementine to grow as people. But the thing is that Lee and Joel both taught Ellie and Clementine how to shoot a gun, how to make a tourniquet, how to bandage themselves. They taught them how to take care of themselves in a zombie apocalypse. And the thing is that Joel has way more experience because it's 20 years after the outbreak. It's 20 years after the outbreak, so he's lived, so he's a fighter, he knows how to maneuver. That's why Joel is the person he is. He's a ruthless killing machine because that's how he had to live his life. It's a dog eat dog world. It's kill or be killed, eat or be eaten. Lee had to teach Clem as he was growing as a person and through the outbreak. He was learning while she was learning. But Lee was someone who had wisdom on his side. He had wisdom and he had a brain, and that's what he used to move around. And if you see in both games, they are both about a zombie outbreak or zombie apocalypse or a pandemic. And the difference is that one starts at the beginning and then one starts 20 years after the outbreak. That just goes to show you that these games both being about zombies is that one focused heavily more on the zombie aspect and on the storyline aspect, and one focused more on action elements and platforming and action pretty much, and storytelling as well. Because if you look at Telltale's The Walking Dead, you would see that they focused more on storyline and character building than anything, because there are action scenes, but a lot of it is more story based because of the game structure and the way it's set up. And they heavily focused more on the zombies with the Walking Dead game, because it is called The Walking Dead. Now, the amount of times that you would see zombie hordes in the game is insane. They would constantly reassure you and constantly give you that feeling that there's imminent danger and an imminent threat at every corner and at every turn and every corner. With The Last of Us, there's many points in between of where there's time to have conversations and there's theatrics and good acting and good voice acting in there, to where there's a lot of safe zones of where they would have dialogue. And the specifically with The Last of Us, the first game, there was a lot of character building. You would grow with the characters and you would learn new information about them. And this is something that The Last of Us Part 2 lacked. There was very little dialogue, there was very little narrative. You were playing with a bunch of characters that you barely got to know, and you didn't really feel the emotion of the game when people died. Like when Joel died, that's probably the only part of the game where you feel emotionally invested to breaking down in tears. It's the same case of how Last of Us 1, of how Joel's daughter got killed. People started crying and some people teared up. But The Last of Us Part 2 didn't have that effect because they killed off so many people that it lacked soul, and that they didn't get to know people. They just got a bunch of new characters out of nowhere that they didn't connect with, that they didn't get to talk to. There was almost no dialogue points, nothing. Now, with The Walking Dead, you get to know characters, and there's so much dialogue and there's so much speech in that game that you get to know all the characters. Each and every character has an importance, and when they get killed off, you feel like a part of you is missing and you feel compelled because the game had good writing and you get to know the characters. And through all of it, The Last of Us never really focused heavily enough on the zombie aspect of the game. I mean, there were new enemy types, but it didn't really add much. It didn't really add much to the game because the zombies played a very small role in the game, as opposed to the Rat King, which I thought was absolutely amazing and a cool boss fight. But they glossed over so much. Like, you didn't really get to know much about the scars, but you knew about the WLF and the camp that Joel, Tommy, and Ellie were staying in. The only characters you really felt connected to were Joel, Tommy, and Ellie. The other characters were too bland and didn't get enough of a backstory to actually warrant emotional connection, if you know what I mean. But with The Walking Dead, each and every character that would come across is a character that they would instantly find some way to make you feel compelled to and that you can connect with. You would feel they would make sure that each character has their role, and very memorable characters. And that's the part where The Last of Us Part 2 really missed out and didn't have enough content to back up its story, and really fell apart by the seams. Now, the games were made in two different times and they were far apart, but this is a clear indication of classic gaming versus modern gaming. Of modern gaming being heavily influenced by people's ideals, social media, people's agendas, SJWs, the LGBTQ, so many other things as well. I mean, I think the part that really made me not feel good about The Last of Us was the fact that you were more platforming and you were killing more humans than you were zombies. It's just crazy to think that this is the way a game would have to operate. But anyway, I think I've said my piece, and I think I'll be closing the door on my Last of Us videos, maybe for now. But maybe I'll make a few character analysis of certain characters. But I thank you so much for watching. This is the Chilly Man signing off. Peace out.